Earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. Psalm 24, verse 1. Climate change is real. Thank you for being on my YouTube channel, One Race, Human Race, All Human. Today is Saturday, July 23rd, 2022.
Climate change is an emergency. And in the coming weeks, I'm going to use the power I have as president to turn these words into formal, official government actions.
Historic heat waves are baking parts of the United States, with thermometer melting temperatures made worse by the well-documented effects of climate change. President Biden's plans to tackle the climate crisis got left in the dust this month after West Virginia Senator and coal industry favorite Joe Manchin said he was a no on clean energy investments. Now, this week, the Biden White House is promising modest executive actions on wind power and other items, with bigger efforts to come later. But just how much longer can the U.S. and the world afford to wait? Joining me now is the amazing Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali, Vice President for Conservation and Justice at the National Wildlife Federation, former senior EPA official, and founder and CEO of Revitalization Strategies. Mustafa, that's the first time I ever had to say your whole name, so I was like, that's a mouthful. Who is that? Anyway, so explain to us what President Biden's executive actions will do.
Yeah. Well, we're thankful that President Biden is moving forward on that executive action. So one of the important things is $2 billion going over to FEMA, and that dollars will actually be utilized to help communities to prepare for the disasters and these impacts that we see happening both in this moment and the things that will come in the future. He will also be able to expand flood control. We've seen these biblical floods, these 100-year, 500-year floods that continue to hit communities across our country. They'll be able to address that. They'll also be able to retrofit buildings. This is so incredibly important because you have folks in South Carolina right now, elders who have been trying to raise their homes because of the floodwaters that continue to impact them, and at the same time, also trying to make sure that their homes are more energy efficient because they can't afford to utilize air conditioning if they even have that. Charles, just let me call out real quickly. We got 30 million people in our country who don't have access to air conditioning, and we have millions more who are afraid to actually turn those units on and protect their lives because they have to make a decision between paying the rent or the mortgage or being able to cool their body. So all of these resources and a number of others that the president is moving forward on are so critically important in helping to protect people's lives.
This is a very important point. Now, Biden used the word emergency a lot, but stopped short of actually declaring an official emergency over climate change. What do you make of that decision?
Well, we continue to encourage him, one, to use all the existing tools that he has, but also let's call out what it is. We know that we are living in an emergency now, and thousands of people's lives are being lost because of extreme heat and a number of the wildfires and a number of other things that are going on. So he can, if he decides to move forward, he can use the National Environmental Act, Emergency Act. He can redirect spending to build out renewable energy systems on military bases. He can also implement large-scale transportation systems because we know that our transportation is one of the main drivers of what's happening in the climate crisis. He also can help to continue to build out electrical vehicle use. And he can do a number of other things also in federal lands and waters to make sure that we are not continuing to subsidize and to support the fossil fuel industry, and we can begin that just transition that's so incredibly needed.
Mustafa, I want you to take a listen to how Senator Joe Manchin defended his decision to tank the president's climate agenda.
They don't understand inflation is the number one critical factor that we have that's hurting every family and harming our economy right now. It's inflation. And I'm very much concerned. I have never changed my position. I'm not stringing anybody along. All I said, can't we make sure that what we do does not add fuel to the fire? That's it.
So what do you make of that? You know, this idea of immediate inflation pressure versus ultimate climate disaster, and how will Joe Manchin's grandchildren look back at what he is doing in this moment?
Well, you know, I was raised in Appalachian, Michigan, so West Virginia, let me call it out. So it's curious that Senator Manchin would utilize the analysis that he did because evidently he's missing some information. When we actually look at inflation, about 40% of that driver is actually connected to fossil fuels. You know, it is what we put into our cars and our trucks. It is the amount of money that we are paying to be able to cool or warm our houses. So for him to say that he's concerned about inflation, he should be focused on a just transition, moving us to a clean economy that would help us to have the stability that is so necessary, especially for vulnerable communities there in West Virginia and across our country, by knowing that we have that clean, renewable energy in place and we're not, at the whims of the fossil fuel industry that continues to make billions of dollars on pain.
And just lastly, before I let you go, what next steps do you expect to see, or would you like to see the president take?
Well, I want to continue to see the president to move forward on bold climate action. I'm hoping, that he actually makes that climate emergency announcement and begins to further redirect resources to all communities, to the states and the cities and the locals and the counties who need those dollars to deal with the climate emergency that we find ourselves in. I hope that he will also stay laser focused on our most vulnerable communities, African American communities, Latin communities, indigenous communities, and lower wealth white communities who have never had the infrastructure underneath of them to be able to navigate both the impacts of pollution, but now this climate crisis that hits them with a double whammy. My grandmother says that when you know better, do better. The president, those on the Senate side, and others need to do better.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali. Always great to talk to you. Coming up tomorrow on The Sunday Show, my friend Jonathan Capehart welcomes Congresswoman Sharice David of Kansas to talk about abortion rights in that state. And Jonathan's Aunt Gloria will be back with her take on the big headlines. You don't want to miss it tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern, right here on MSNBC. And that will do it for me. Thank you at home for watching The Cross Connection. Tiffany will be back next Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern. But stay tuned because MSNBC Reports with Alex Witt is next.
It's very important that we explain to the American public that the Democrats do not have a functional majority in the United Senate. You need 60 senators to overcome the racist filibuster. Democrats have 50 right now, and then with one vote from the vice president, that gives them the majority by one vote. So really, you need, 12 more senators, okay, to really be safe. That's with the United States Senate. The House has passed many bills, and then in the Senate, they're not passed because there is not a functional, governable majority for the Democrat Party at this time. Thank you for being on my YouTube channel, One Race, Human Race, All Human. Today is Saturday, July 23rd, 2022. God bless you. God keep you. Keep moving forward. Don't give up. Don't give in. Don't give out. Bless you.